Hi guys! Today we'll be recapping a manga called In This Life, I Will Raise You Well, Your Majesty. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel as it helps us a lot. Enjoy! Meet Elisha. At the age of 19, she met her dream man at a dinner party. None other than the Emperor Kaito of Atian. He was handsome, polite, and well, he's literally an emperor. What girl could say no to a man like that? At the age of 22, Elisha had his first child, but by that time, their relationship had soured. That gorgeous Prince Charming didn't even come and visit her after she gave birth. What a skis! Poor Elisha realized a little too late that what Kaito wanted was someone who could become a great wizard. He wasn't really interested in her, just her magical potential. So when she had a child, she became useless to him because she gave up her magic to give birth. Having given up on her marriage, Elisha decided to name her child Leon and dedicate her life to him. But by the time she reached 26, sweet baby Leon had almost died. Twice! Jeez, this girl really can't catch a break, can she? Elisha and Leon were surrounded by enemies in the palace looking to take them out. She had to be very strict with her child to ensure they both survived. When she turned 32, there was a kingdom war in which the crown prince perished, causing heartbreak to young Leon, who saw him as a brother. He blamed his mother for not trying to save him. You see, she had gained her magic back thanks to a contract forged with the fire spirit Ignis. With her new power, Elisha took many lives and finally turned into the villain the world had been trying to make her all these years. She achieved her life's goal by putting her son on the throne, but the day it was finally his, Leon poisoned himself. You'd think a son would be grateful that their mother basically handed them a straight shot at ultimate power, but hey, their story has been pretty messed up so far. I guess it only makes sense that it would end in such a hardcore way. After losing her son, Elisha gave into the abyss. When she heard her son calling in the distance, she woke up to find that she'd gone back in time to when Leon was just 5 years old. He seems scared of his mother. I mean, it's not hard to tell why, given what we just saw of his childhood. He's probably expecting her to come back twice as strict, but Elisha's memory of his death is fresh in her mind. She's not about to make the same mistake twice. She tells her son to do whatever he wants. No matter what kind of person he grows up to become, she will love him more than anyone. Aw, that would be so sweet if I wasn't still processing that super metal death scene. Realizing she's been given another chance, Elisha wants to raise her son right this time. Preparations are being made for his 6th birthday party, an important opportunity for them to cement his status as a prince. In her last life, Leon's party was a mess. At the hands of her rival Queen Isabel, it turned into a fiasco where no one showed up. This time around, she's determined not to let anything get in the way. Although it looks like it might be harder than she thought. Even now, Leon's tutor is undoing all her hard work by telling him his mother's kindness was all just a test to check how dedicated he was to becoming prince. Wow, why is everyone so manipulative? No wonder this kid grew up with so much trauma. The next day, the Empress Elisha walks in on her son's lessons to find his tutor berating him. She's yelling all sorts of horrible things about how he'll never be crowned prince and how his mother is just a concubine. I can't wait until she realizes who's been listening at the door. Ooh, you're in trouble now. The Empress is not happy. She shoves the tutor on the floor and tells her to get out, threatening to punish her later. Once they're alone, Leon apologizes for acting so pathetic. Clearly, he's embarrassed about crying, so his mother tries to cheer him up by admitting that she used to drink her own pee? What the heck? I don't know if you needed to go that far, bestie. Anyway, it kind of works, probably because Leon is so disgusted that he stops crying. Elisha apologizes for putting him in that position and tucks him into bed. Her son's governess was a well-known teacher, but she's crossed the line this time. She asks one of the maids to fetch the tutor, but she's nowhere to be found. The Empress gets suspicious and calls the guards to Leon's room immediately. It turns out she's right to be suspicious, because when Leon wakes up, his tutor is by his bedside, apologizing and offering him a drink. Although, I think we all know it's not water in that glass. Run, Empress, your son is in danger! While the guards are on their way, Elisha tries to summon Ignis, the fire spirit whose contract is bound with her soul. For some reason, since coming back to the past, he never answers her summons, so for the time being, she is powerless. And it's not a great time to be lacking magic, considering she clearly still has enemies. Seeking answers, she heads to the magic ministry to communicate with someone who can help. But while reaching out to her own teacher, she suddenly remembers something from her past life. At the time of her son's 6th birthday, there was an assassination attempt by poison. In the end, it was all pinned on a newly hired maid, but the one to point the finger was Leon's tutor. Can you see where this is going? When Elisha connects the dots, she sprints back to her son's room to find him beside his governess, holding the glass she gave him. She immediately snatches it from his hands and turns on the tutor. The jig is up when Elisha drops a silver pin inside the glass and it changes color. Just water, was it? Nice try, you evil witch. The guards arrive just in time to carry her away. Before she disappears, Elisha asks the tutor who ordered her to take her son's life. In classic villain fashion, she only responds that she couldn't handle the truth, even if she did tell. Well, that's infuriatingly vague. Thank you, madam. Now exit stage left. Now the danger is averted, we get a chance to go back and see what Elisha spoke about with her teacher. They have a strange kind of relationship. He teaches her magic, and in return, he gets to take credit for the magic formulas she creates. You see, the magic system in the Atean Empire is a little complicated. They have 3 demon towers, each with their own master. William, her teacher, is one of them, and also a 7th-class wizard. So that means he's pretty damn powerful. Honestly, their conversation is a little complicated and very underhanded, but the gist of it is that William needs her help to solidify his position as the Demon Tower Master. So in exchange for her formulas, Elisha demands that he attend her son's birthday party. Not a lot to ask, right? Of course, that won't be all, but she doesn't want to show her hand just yet. She promises to give him more details when he visits the palace, and then hangs up. I'm not totally sure what just happened, but I think Elisha just had a major girl boss moment. With one win under her belt, Elisha moves to her next target, Asensio, the crown prince who died in her past life during the Civil War. She's come to watch him training his swordmanship and has to admit he's pretty skilled, even though he's still just a child. As she's watching, she's approached by the Marquis Belmer, Asensio's uncle. Belmer himself is one of the only 3 swordmasters in the Atean Empire, and kind of an ally in the sense that he's not the Emperor's biggest fan. Elisha asks him to ensure that the Crown Prince will attend her son's birthday party, since it would make Leon really happy to have him there. The Marquis makes no promises, but warns her that if Asensio attends the party, it will really rub the First Empress the wrong way. Wow, palace life is so complicated. You can't even look in one direction without offending someone else. Because she's a legend, Elisha doesn't seem to care what the First Empress thinks. And this time around, she's determined to keep Asensio alive. She gives the Marquis assurance that she's on their side. Then, they're interrupted by the Crown Prince himself, who comes running over to say hi. Elisha invites him to the party herself and spends the rest of her time securing as many guests as possible. When the day of Leon's birthday arrives, it looks like she succeeded. This time, he has a big bash in full swing. And look, the Crown Prince did show. Leon is so happy to see his brother, he runs over for Asensio to pick him up and swing him around. That's actually so cute. And sort of heartbreaking too, when you remember what happened in their last life. When Asensio's uncle arrives, he looks thoroughly peeved. Seeing all the important nobles gathered at the party, he's starting to suspect that the Empress is using his nephew to consolidate her power. And I guess, given her past actions, that's not totally unreasonable. She assures him that all she wants is for the boys to have a nice time. Besides, if he was impressed with the guests before, he'll be even more shocked when he sees who shows up next. That's right. Elisha's persuasion tactics worked, because the next person to walk down the stairs is William, Master of the Demon Tower. Talk about a big name. But little does Elisha know that an even more important guest is about to arrive. Though this one isn't quite as friendly. The First Empress appears with her son in tow, acting all coy. Obviously, she thinks of herself as a pretty big deal, but Elisha just acts like she's any other guest and turns her back on her. I actually love this girl. She has balls of steel for real. She also calls out William to thank him for attending the party, catching him off guard while he's reading the newest magical formula that she passed to him in secret. Looks like she's found a way to increase his power even further, but honestly, it's hard to tell what she's doing. The vibe of the party is a little sus after that. The Empress sends Leon off to his room so that she can scheme. She approaches the Marquis, demanding a decision. Will he side with her or not? Belmer is still hesitant, mainly because he's not sure who their enemies actually are. He's a little slow, this one, isn't he? When Elisha subtly suggests she's gunning against the Emperor himself, the Marquis is so shocked he drops his glass. Guys? Everyone is kind of staring at you. Some party this has turned out to be. Elisha lays her plan for him. She intends to side with the Crown Prince to keep him from harm and gain more supporters for Leon. But in doing so, she will draw enemies, namely the first Empress and the Emperor himself. And she's okay with that, because Elisha is going to act as the bait and take everything they have to shield their boys. When the Crown Prince himself gives Elisha his support, it seems like the Marquis has no choice but to accept. The Marquis still doesn't really make a decision. He sort of just wanders off like a moody child, even though she's literally offering to cover his back and keep his nephew alive. I mean, really, what is there to think about? After that tense political mess, Elisha wanders upstairs to find Leon and start the real birthday party. She's prepared all sorts of cakes, tea, and scones galore, all for Leon and Asensio to enjoy without the pressures of the nobles watching. She also gives Leon his birthday present, a giant purple cake with his name on it. She made it herself, which probably explains why everyone looks so unhappy when they taste it. I guess we finally find out something Elisha can't do. Bake. The boys have a wonderful time, and when it's time for Asensio to go home, Elisha and a sleepy Leon walk him back. The Empress asks the Crown Prince if he's truly prepared for the fallout of what happened at the party. After all, they made an enemy of the first Empress. It's not like that won't have consequences. She warns him that he'll have a lot of important work to do in the days to come and asks him to let her know if it's ever too much. The next day, Elisha visits William in his study. He takes a jab at her, so girl boss Elisha decides to put him back in his place. She chose William as an ally because he used to be her teacher. But due to her connections, she'll soon be in touch with another of the three towers. That means she doesn't really need him. He needs her. She's the one who keeps feeding him these high-level magical formulas anyway. She's about to hand him another, but withholds it until he promises to protect the Crown Prince and little Leon. This time, Elisha has really pushed the boat out. She's literally invented a whole new theory of magic. See, this is why I can forgive her for being a terrible baker, because she's basically the Einstein of magic. William is losing his mind at the potential of this new theory when he suddenly starts coughing up blood. Wait, what? What the heck is going on? Did she somehow just poison him? After literally spitting blood on the floor, William is somehow more annoyed about the fact that she's withholding the other half of the theory than whatever is going on with his body. To earn the rest of it, she wants him to come through with his side of the bargain, basically guaranteeing the safety of the kids. And if he does what she wants, she'll unlock the secrets to level 8 magical theory for him. Does anyone else get hella confused every time Elisha starts bargaining? I don't totally understand why William was choking on his own blood, but it really doesn't sound like she's asking for a lot. About 3 months after Leon's birthday, William sends a couple of wizards to the second Empress's palace to help protect them. One is an old man named George, and the other is his disciple, a young girl with super cool hair who goes by Jillian. Jillian is very talented herself and has worked with Elisha in the past. Even Leon recognizes her when he comes running in. He takes such a liking to her that the Empress even invites her to come and have lunch with them and the Crown Prince. Damn, are they just gonna leave George out like that? Seems a little harsh. The kids have a picnic in the gardens together, though it seems like Jillian and Asensio are kind of fighting for Leon's attention. While they're having an idyllic little brunch as a quasi-family, they overhear some knights nearby bad-mouthing the Crown Prince and the Empress. Because he's an adorable little gentleman, Asensio takes it upon himself to shut them up. But Elisha is obviously not going to let him ruin his reputation like that, so she goes with him. Plus, they were also snitching about her, so I bet she wants to teach them a lesson. They end up going over all together. Before they can even get a word out, one of the knights drops to his knees and apologizes for bad-mouthing him. Well, sort of. He then also says that the entire Royal Legion think the same, and accuses him of abandoning them for the Second Empress, so not really an apology at all, actually. That's when the Grand Lady herself steps in. Oh, this is gonna be good. She stomps all over him, saying he disrespected his master by gossiping about him in front of everyone. For some reason, this dude will not quit, and even says if she hadn't lost her magic, he would challenge her right here, right now. Obviously, Elisha isn't one to back down from a fight, so she accepts. He thinks it's some kind of trap, that she's going to make him responsible for hurting her. To prove she's not messing around, she draws his sword. Little do they know that the Marquis Belmer and the Emperor himself are on their way over for an impromptu visit. Ugh, that guy has the worst timing. Something tells me this is going to get messy. Elisha is now gearing up for a duel with the rude knight, who seems pretty confident about his chances against the Empress. He strikes first, shocked to find that not only does she know how to use a sword, but she's strong enough to block him. That's our girl for you. Realizing his pride is on the line, the knight goes all out. He attacks her with all his strength, but no matter what move he makes, Elisha blocks it cleanly. When the moment is right, she strikes, landing her sword literally inches from his neck. I told you, she really can do everything except bake. Suddenly, the knight lunges back, striking so hard that he breaks her sword in two. Surely that's against the rules. Just before he lands the killing blow, a stranger charges in and blasts the knight aside. This, ladies and gentlemen, is none other than the Emperor's first sword, Rohan Scherzer, the strongest knight in the Empire with a heart of gold. And a face of gold, if we're honest. Seriously, look at this guy. Turns out Elisha and this guy have history. In her past life, he even died because of her. Unfortunately, the Emperor is right behind him and just has to cut in and ruin the mood. It's been a long time since these two are face to face, but he's pretty surprised to find her in the middle of a duel with one of his knights. And winning, if the weasel hadn't cheated. The knights apologize to the Emperor, but Elisha cuts him off and says the person they should be bowing to is Asensio. She's really treading close to the line now. The Emperor coolly says that an apology to him is just as good as his son. When Elisha asks him to demonstrate the majesty of the Empire, he even threatens to kill them or cut off their limbs. Yikes! Instead of that horror show, Elisha suggests he disband their legion and form a new band of knights with the Crown Prince as their commander. And this time, they should be made of ordinary people, not nobles who are too arrogant and easily swayed. The Emperor suspects that Elisha has been brewing this for quite some time, which, let's be honest, she probably has. But instead of trying to squash her schemes, he accepts her proposal. Once he's gone, poor Leon seems a little upset. His dad didn't even look at him, and he didn't acknowledge Asensio either. Would it kill this guy to do his job as a parent every once in a while? Jeez, I really don't like him. Elisha reassures the boys that it's not their fault. He's just a douchebag. No, she actually says that. Because she's just that baller. She tells them that they have to love themselves more than anyone else in order to stand firmly on their own 2 feet. That's when the people around them will recognize their confidence and be able to give some love back. In the middle of her lecture, Elisha realizes Sir Rohan is listening in. Did she not want to check that beforehand? Probably not the best idea to talk about how horrible the Emperor is when his top knight is standing literally right there. He assures her that nothing she said will make it back to the Emperor. She tries to move him along, but Sir Rohan notices a wound on her hand from the duel and offers her a handkerchief. Ugh, seriously? He's like the perfect man. The next day, she and Leon are on an outing to the capital with Sir Rohan. Elisha is shocked to see the state of the common folk. Children are begging in the streets and everyone seems impoverished. Apparently, the lasting drought and heat has caused all of this, which is another surprise. That didn't happen in her past life. Elisha starts to wonder if going back in time has disturbed more things than she realized. Leon seems upset to witness all the poor children in the streets, so Elisha encourages him to come up with ways to use his power to change their circumstances. Which is sweet and all, but couldn't they just hand over some cash right now? They're literally the Emperor's family. I'm pretty sure they could afford to drop a coin or two. Eventually, the trio arrive at their destination, the bodyguard barracks, where Elisha hopes to secure her new force of guards for the Crown Prince. They enter to find a load of rowdy bodyguards drinking wine and arm wrestling in the mess hall. Sir Rohan seems hesitant, but Elisha isn't put off, although she does warn them that anyone who makes explicit comments in front of the third prince may lose their head, and that shuts them up pretty quickly. Elisha invites the soldiers to make a deal, but their captain, Dale Filion, seems hesitant to trust them. Sometime in the past, he's been ridiculed and treated cruelly by the Empire, so he probably doesn't have much reason to go along with her plans. In her past life, Elisha met Dale the year after Asensio's passing. After spending 10 years as an underappreciated bodyguard, Elisha found him and turned him into her loyal servant. As a reward, she made him the Marquis Joheim, though he was more often referred to as the dog of Elisha, the Witch of Fire. In this life, of course, she doesn't get that cool title because she doesn't have her magic anymore. So the best way to bring the Guardians to her side is through this initiative with the Crown Prince. But Dale makes some valid points. The Crown Prince already has a companion in Marquis Belmer, so why should these bodyguards accept such a meaningless position? Elisha assures them that she knows their potential and would allow them to prove their dedication in a way they haven't before. Plus, they would have the backing of the second Empress, which is nothing to sniff at. She offers them a brighter future where they will be appreciated and valued for their skills. Who could say no to that? Besides, it doesn't look like their current living situation is exactly high class. Because Dale isn't an idiot, he kneels immediately before her and almost has a sword thrown through his neck. It seems Sir Rohan thought the guard was trying to mock Her Majesty and didn't take kindly to it. Okay, serious question. How has Elisha not fallen for this guy already? So he kneels in front of Leon instead, who promises to reward his loyalty if the guards serve him well. When Dale kisses his hands, the deal is sealed. Soon, they will be the Knights of the Crown Prince Ascensio, and Elisha will have yet another weapon in her arsenal. Not bad, huh? On the way back to the palace, their carriage wheel gets stuck in a groove in the road, and of course, Mr. Perfect is there in a heartbeat to check if the Empress and her prince are unharmed. It's going to take at least an hour to repair, so they head out for a walk through the town market. Some barbecue skewers catch Leon's eye, so his mom gives him some money to go buy a few and bring them back. He ends up practically buying out the entire stall. Obviously, he bought one for the Empress and Sir Rohan, but he's also figured out a way to help the street kids from before. He puts all his skewers in a bag and heads over to the kids, laying out the skewers on a placemat for them. But I guess starving children don't have the luxury of manners. The first few to get some run off and bump straight into a young girl who drops hers on the ground. Sweet Leon calls out to offer her another, but from out of nowhere, a dark figure grabs him. The second Elisha notices this, she is right on their tail. And Sir Rohan isn't far behind either. It turns out there's a whole group of them. He corners 3 men wearing black and slashes them in one hit like the hero he is. The leaders are still in front though, and they're the ones who have Leon. They hurry the boy away and leave a few behind to keep him occupied. Rohan is torn. If he runs after the prince, then Elisha will be in danger, but the further they get, the harder they will be to find. Thinking fast, he digs up a load of pebbles and flings them at his enemies, landing a few solid kicks to get them on the ground. Now that Elisha is safe, he can run after Leon. While investigating the crumpled bodies, she recognizes one of their weapons and grabs it. One of the thugs tries to take it from her, but a quick boot to the hand stops him in his tracks. Ouch! Take that as a lesson, buddy. This Empress is not to be messed with. And I mean that literally, because the moment she has the sword, Elisha stabs one of the thugs on the ground and runs another through. Soon, Rohan returns with Leon safe in his arms. She cries out with joy at seeing her son, but in the second it takes to distract her, one of the thugs rears up behind her. Elisha turns, taking the slash through her dress and returning his attack with twice the force. The next second, he's on the ground, very much dead. Which is super cool and all, but will someone think about baby Leon? Isn't 6 too young to see your first dead body? Elisha tears off the ripped part of her dress, exposing a teensy bit of leg. Apparently, that's enough to distract the great knight Rohan, who very clearly has a thing for her. But instead of ogling her shins, he ties a little bow where the rip was to protect her modesty. Oh my god, can these two please get married already? Screw the Emperor, I want her to end up with this handsome hunk. After a little bit of teasing, she thanks Rohan for saving her son. They both have suspicions about who exactly ordered an attack like this, especially since one of the thugs had a potion of some kind and was clearly going after the Empress. But really, it could be just about anyone. The first Empress is certainly a suspect, and when she hears how Elisha returned to the palace after some kind of incident, she seems delighted. But then, she's a horrible person anyway. I suppose that doesn't mean she did it. The Emperor himself has also been keeping tabs on her, using a spy to confirm whether she can or can't use her magic anymore. So long story short, no one can be trusted. Once the royals have settled back in the palace, the recruitment of the new knights is due. Leon asks Rohan to come and watch it with him. I guess after the incident in the capital, he's now infatuated with his savior, and who could blame him? While they're walking over, Leon asks Rohan if he and his mother are friends. The knight acts surprised, though I don't know why. Even the prince has noticed that they treat each other differently than other people. When they reach the recruitment center, they find Dale and the bodyguards doing badly. The recruiters aren't impressed with their skills or their ability to manipulate mana, though it seems like one of the commanders is giving them a particularly hard time. Sensing foul play, Rohan wants to go up and interfere, but Elisha warns him that might put his position at risk. See, this is how you know she actually cares for him. She would never stop someone else if their actions still benefited her. I'm telling you guys, these two are endgame. Rohan sees this as his responsibility, so he's willing to risk it. And just like his job, he comes in swinging. He accuses the commander of discriminating based on their background and steps in to test the trainees himself. Oof. Now, remember, Rohan, you have to go easy. Not everyone is as crazy strong as you. He goes head-to-head with Dale, who is quickly exhausted trying to keep up with the Emperor's first night. But he lasts way longer than any of the palace knights, which is a real testament to his skill. Begrudgingly, the commanding officers agree to approve their abilities and report back to the Emperor. Elisha thanks Rohan for stepping in and invites him to tea. Rohan tries to refuse. After all, he's probably very busy with all his responsibilities. But one look at Leon's shining face and he's a goner. Who could refuse a kid that cute? They sit down with a picnic blanket and some snacks in the palace ground, chatting together like a little family. After a while, both Leon and the Empress fall asleep, and when they wake up, Rohan is gone. Instead, they have the Crown Prince for company, who invites them to have a look at the new second knights. Asensio seems really excited and pleased with his new soldiers, so by the end of the day, Elisha is satisfied that things are continuing to go as planned. But without her magic, the Empress doesn't feel prepared to truly protect the children. Using a pair of rubies from her jewelry box, she tries to summon a spirit to her aid. It looks dangerous, definitely too risky for someone with no magic to attempt. But we know Elisha well enough by now to know that she doesn't care about danger. The higher the risk, the higher the reward. She ends up passing out and losing a lot of blood. Mary the maid found her lying still on the floor the next morning, and though they tried their best to keep it quiet, the rumor quickly spread. But it wasn't all for nothing. To her own surprise, Elisha ends up connecting with a low-level water spirit named Undine. It's a total flip from her last life, where her soul was most compatible with Ignis, a fire spirit. They managed to form a contract, but since the Empress fainted soon after, she can't remember the details. Now, why do I feel like that's going to come back to bite her in the butt? Based on the little figure that appears in her teacup, I have to say that Undine seems kind of sweet, even though she's not super helpful. Though that makes sense. The amount of power one draws from summoning a spirit is appropriate to both their own mana and the value of the gem. Since the Empress doesn't have much magical energy and was only using rubies, she wasn't likely to conjure a high-level spirit anyway. But I guess that cute little water sprite is better than nothing. Meanwhile, the second prince's birthday party is approaching, and preparations are in full swing. The first Empress is doing everything she can to one-up Elisha, while also keeping track of her movements. Her and one of her ladies-in-waiting even know that she's been out to buy jewelry and are starting to close in on her motivations. I'm sure the first Empress is going to do everything she can to stop her from getting stronger. That afternoon, Mary the maid returns with several high-quality gemstones, including diamonds, sapphires, and pearls. Looks like she's going again. I really hope she doesn't push it too far this time. We don't get to see how it turned out at first, because it's time for the second prince's birthday party. The Empress has spared no expense and is showered with compliments by her many fancy guests. A little after the party starts, Elisha, Leon, and Asensio arrive, so things can't have gone too bad with the summoning after all. The first Empress is up to her usual tricks almost immediately, thanking the Crown Prince for his attendance while almost totally ignoring Elisha and her son. Asensio warns Elisha not to let her guard down. The moment they stepped inside, the first Empress saw them as her prey. But like a total boss, she reminds him that the hunt works both ways. The Empress is just as much their prey as they are hers. In which case, they might as well relax. It is a party after all. Though for Elisha, the real fun is all about humiliating other nobles. When a group of aristocrats try to embarrass her by mentioning a very expensive brand of wine, she turns around and corrects their ignorances. No amount of teasing can make up for genuine class, of which the Empress has plenty. I only hope someone has some aloe vera for that third-degree burn. Soon after, a strange girl with bright red hair and an odd dress appears, applauding Elisha. This is Rosanin, youngest daughter of Earl Godum's family. She's surprised the Empress recognizes her because people normally don't, though I'm not sure how. That hair is bright enough to stand out in any crowd. As it happens, Rosanin is also someone the Empress knew in her past life. In fact, she was key to making several of her more ambitious plans come true. You see, her family is one of the more powerful trading groups in the Empire. To Rosanin's shock, Elisha knows all about the complex politics within their dynamic, even down to which of her brothers is monopolizing what. She advises the girl to focus her efforts on a mine that the others believe to be defunct, yet again using her past life knowledge to earn allies in this one. But Elisha is doing things differently this time around. She won't take advantage of Rosanin the way she did before, although honestly, it looks like she won't have to. I'm not sure if Rosanin was swayed by the Empress's knowledge or by the fact that she's so damn cool. But by the end of their conversation, she's on side and even backs up everything she said about the wine. On the hunt for more allies, the Crown Prince brings over Timothy of Viscount Kane, a young man who has inherited quite a significant amount of territory without any real backing in the palace. Sounds like the perfect target for Elisa's team. There's been some issues trying to find the missing will of his late father. As usual, family politics is screwing over a perfectly innocent kid. Once again, her past life comes in clutch. Elisha remembers that the Viscountess and young Timothy were spurned by their family and went searching all across the Empire for the will. Eventually, they found it in her late husband's grave as some kind of sick joke. And in her frustration, the Viscountess hanged herself. Well, that got dark real fast. After meeting Timothy, she suggests that he and his mother look for the will someplace that was precious to the Viscount, where she goes when she misses him. He ran straight over to tell his mom, and they rushed out of the party together. So not only has she solved the family mystery and literally saved a life, but earned herself another pair of friends from a very wealthy family. It really is just a win-win-win for the Empress at the moment. The Crown Prince comments on her endless knowledge, which at this point is surely getting a bit suspicious. But she just tells him someday he'll understand, when he's old and wrinkly and sat on the throne himself. Isn't that just the classic adult response to a curious kid? You'll get it when you're older. It doesn't seem to annoy Asensio as much as it used to annoy me. Instead, the three of them smile while thinking of their future together. Just then, the Emperor suddenly makes his appearance. The Empress rushes over to greet him, pleased with herself as usual. You see, the Emperor doesn't attend events that aren't obligatory, and especially doesn't show up at birthday parties, so it's quite a big deal for him to turn up today. It's like showing his preference for Isabel and the second prince over all his other sons. Not willing to sit by and be shown up, Elisha brings her boys over to greet him. She's surprised to find both Rohan and Marquis Belmer at his side, but the Emperor calls a start to the banquet before anyone can talk. While he and the first Empress take the dance floor, Asensio was called over by a young girl in tears. Wait, is the Crown Prince a little heartbreaker? What's happening here? Actually, this little girl is one of the candidates for his future wife as chosen by the first Empress. So you already know she's not to be trusted. Asensio runs off to deal with his girl trouble while Rohan and Elisha take the floor. Little Leon, the matchmaker, practically forced them to dance together, for which I'm very grateful. Thanks to him, we get to see the two of them holding hands. Of course, the Emperor has to butt in and ruin it soon after, making a comment about how they seem to be getting quite close. Yeah, and it's none of your business, so just leave them to their romance already. While they're all distracted with the party, a maid sneaks into Elisa's room to steal from her jewelry, especially the diamond box. How much do you want to bet that has something to do with Empress Isabel? Meanwhile, Elisha and Sir Rohan are ballsy enough to hold hands in front of the Emperor. So he tries to assert dominance over his wife by taking notice of her lovely ruby earrings. Elisha doesn't take kindly to him touching her, so she brushes him away. Her husband fires back by asking if she knows who sent the jewelry. But of course, our girl doesn't miss a thing. The design of the earrings is almost identical to the handkerchief Rohan gave her, so she put two and two together. As it turns out, the trail led back to Jalen, Sir Rohan's wife. Wait, wife? I didn't realize he was already married. But technically so is Elisha. Ugh, why do things in this court have to be so freaking complicated? Anyway, Jalen was kind of given to Rohan in some messed up scheme of the Emperor's, and now he uses her to keep his knight in check. It seems like this mysterious wife sent the jewelry to Elisha as a kind of warning, to let her know she's been watching. I mean, that's fair. If my gorgeous knightly husband had been following someone as gorgeous as Elisha, I think I'd be threatened too. The Emperor suggests they stop provoking Jalen and dance with their actual spouses instead. Even though I'm pretty sure he just said that to show off to Rohan, Elisha can't refuse. But as she takes his hand, someone screams at the first Empress across the room. It's one of Elisha's own maids. She's holding one of the pieces sent to her, trying to make it look like she stole the necklace from the first Empress. Well, that's hardly a surprise. That whole setup was fishy to begin with. It was only a matter of time. Elisha asks them to provide proof that it definitely belongs to Isabel. So she opens the box, at which point Elisha literally flicks her on the forehead and snatches the necklace. Wow. I didn't know we were resorting to playground tactics, but okay. The first Empress tries to grab it, but in the scramble, the necklace falls and shatters to 100 pieces on the floor, which is pretty surprising since diamonds don't shatter that easy. Elisha quickly turns the situation on its head, accusing Isabel of trying to set her up in front of everyone. Obviously, she tries to pin it on the maid instead, who tries to save her own hide by announcing to the entire ballroom that the second Empress has been summoning demons. Which, firstly, not true. And secondly, if you're gonna go down with some dignity, babe. This is not a good look. She goes on this whole speech about how the second Empress's palace is getting all freaky, and it must be the result of corrupt wizardry and demons. Even the Emperor and Empress look pretty doubtful, but Elisha doesn't try to deny it. Instead, she offers the terrified guests a chance to see this famous demon who has been terrorizing her maid. She uses her magic to show off a little, stunning the guests who are watching and catching the little water spirit in her hand. It flies over to give Leon a little bump on his nose too, which is adorable. I mean, look at that thing. Does that look like a demon to you? The second prince is having none of it. He storms over and tries to grab the spirit, causing a small explosion. Somewhere in the commotion, the Emperor picks her up, though I have no idea why. He seems to find the whole situation kind of funny. At least he isn't mad, I guess. But he does take her earrings off, promising to give her some better ones instead. Meanwhile, the first Empress is watching on, clearly furious, which gets Elisha thinking. Is she being used as bait? Is the Emperor just humoring her to keep his other wife in check? It's not yet clear. One thing that is clear is that Elisha is super popular after proving her magical prowess at the party. People stop paying so much attention to Isabel and start showering Elisha with gifts. She's also received a visit from two big fans of hers, the Viscountess Kane and her son Timothy. Her tips were exactly what they needed to secure the will of her late husband, so she's come to give her thanks. And she has spared no expense. She just brought a whole load of gorgeous jewelry. I wish people thanked me that way, bringing me a bucket of priceless gems every time I did them a favor. That'd be nice. Anyway, Leon and Timothy are getting along just as well as their mothers. The boys come rushing in and ask to see Undine again. So Elisha summons her and demonstrates her abilities by conjuring some jets for the boys to play in. That night, while she's tucking him into bed, Leon tells his mom how much he enjoyed today, and Elisha sings him to sleep with a lullaby. What a perfect image of mother and son. This would never have happened in her past life. The next day, the Emperor and some of his advisors are meeting in the throne room, and they don't seem quite as happy as the others to hear the news of the Empress's new spirit friend. Partly because they don't believe she's really capable of summoning a spirit. And perfect timing, Elisha walks into the throne room right then, bowing in front of her husband. Apparently, she wrote a letter yesterday explaining that her new spirit could help the Empire, and she's been summoned to explain how. So the second Empress explains the water spirits are generally pretty gentle. They're able to draw water to their user from a great distance, but that depends on the spirit's grade. Undine is fairly low level, so she's not especially powerful. But because she can detect water from some distance away, it would make Elisha able to map out the waterways flowing beneath their empire. In times of drought, this would be incredibly useful. They could redirect underground tributaries and literally save lives. She's always thinking, our girl. The nobles seem hesitant to believe that this is even possible. The brother of the first Empress, Raymond, is especially critical, because of course he is. She points out that the western part of their empire is suffering greatly because of drought. So what do they have to lose by trusting her? She turns to the Emperor for aid, and surprisingly, he's actually on her side for once and tells her to lead the way. After the council meeting, the two of them head to the gardens for a walk, where he commends Elisha on the way she handled the nobles. He seems to struggle with them, and given how self-interest Isabel's brother is, I can see why. In a rare moment of kinship, Elisha reminds her husband that he's the one who sits on the throne. The people of the Empire are his subjects, so at the end of the day, it's his choice how to look after them. Jeez, you'd think that much would be obvious. Grateful for his wife's support, he praises her for wanting to use her magic for good. But the plan Elisha has suggested will need a lot of different spiritualists to take part, and the nobles don't have a particularly good relationship with wizards like them. She needs to work hard to make this plan succeed. While she's scheming, the Emperor catches something in her eye and reminds her of her place. He says she's got the look of someone who wants to lead, and reminds her that no master can tolerate a servant who wants to get ahead of him. Ugh. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I really hate this guy. Like, seriously? She's your wife, not your servant. At that moment, Undine arrives to tug on her hair, letting Elisha know she's found one of the water veins they were searching for. Meanwhile, Empress Isabel just got word that her husband and Elisha were walking in the gardens, and seemed to be getting on rather well. Being the jealous witch that she is, Isabel sprints straight over, clearly hoping to intervene. When she arrives, she immediately shoots Elisha a filthy glare, while one of her brother's servants fills her in on the waterway plan. She doesn't seem happy about the idea that they might be about to dig up the ground, since they seem to be headed for her garden. But instead of showing her anger, Isabel puts on a good face and invites him inside warmly. Her brother can see that she's furious and tells her not to lose her temper. The Emperor is trying to provoke her, and the moment she gives in, she'll have lost her power. Well, he's not wrong, this Raymond guy, but what I wouldn't give to watch Isabel fly off the handle. Even I have to admit that the Empress's gardens are really gorgeous, so she must be devastated when Undine finally lands on a pretty patch of roses, signaling that there's a water vein beneath them. Because it was Elisha's magic that found it, she cheekily suggests the nobles be the ones to dig it up. Oof, I'm sure that's not going to go down well at all. Predictably, Raymond kicks up a fuss, so Elisha suggests they call the Imperial Guard instead. Soon there is a big pit in the ground right where those lovely flowers used to be. And look who showed up with the guards. It's good old Sir Rohan, come to keep the nobles in line. Now, don't get me wrong, I love it every time this man shows up, but does anyone else think he and Elisha should be keeping a low profile? Like, the Emperor is standing right there, guys. Tone down the chemistry. Suddenly, the guards strike gold. Well, actually, they struck water. A giant jet shoots up from the ground, giving everyone a good shower. Now that Elisha has proven her abilities, the nobles suggest they send her west right away to the worst of the drought. The Emperor agrees and promises to take care of the second Empress's palace while she's away. Though, truth be told, I wouldn't trust him to take care of a fly, let alone poor Leon. I hope she can take him with her. Little do they know that the mysterious Princess Jaylin has been watching from her windows, and seems very interested in the Empress's next move. The earrings she sent Elisha were returned to her, clearly as a warning. But whatever Jaylin's motives are, Rohan is clearly at the center. And I'm also very curious about their relationship. Whose side is this girl on? Does Rohan care for her as much as she clearly cares for him? Rohan pays her a visit, making Jaylin so delighted that she comes all the way out to the hall to greet him, which is kind of a big deal since she's so prone to injury and illness. She invites him in for a meal, so the husband and wife sit down together. Good news for all us Rolisa shippers. The Emperor has ordered Rohan to go west with Elisha, so I'm sure we'll get a few more swoon-worthy interactions between them. Jaylin isn't happy to hear the news. No shock there. She makes a few comments about how he and Elisha seem very close, but she doesn't push it. Mainly, she seems sad that he's going away and asks if he wants to spend the evening together. No, not like that. At least, I don't think so. She just wants to hang out and share a drink, but Rohan firmly turns her down with the excuse that he must prepare for their journey. Which, fair, and I'm glad he's being loyal to Elisha, but at the same time, I can't help but feel bad for Jaylin. She clearly just loves her husband. Nothing wrong with that. Apparently, though, their marriage has been like this from the start. Rohan even told her before they got engaged that he didn't love her. Thinking about their relationship gets her so angry that she clutches the earrings in her palm hard enough to draw blood. Uh-oh. I take back what I say about Jaylin. She seems like bad news. Back at the palace of the second Empress, Elisha has had a lot to prepare the last few days. And things have been busy for Asensio too. He had his first official government meeting, and for the first time, people respected him and treated him like the crown prince. From now on, he'll report all the Empress's endeavors in the West to the government himself, since she doesn't trust anyone else to do it. Asensio is touched that she trusts him with something so important and says he wants to make her proud. Aw, of course she's already proud of you, Asensio. The next day, a suspicious-looking present arrives for Elisha. She has good reason to be wary, but since it was sent by the Emperor, she can't refuse. She opens the box to find a fancy tunic, trousers, and a large cape with the Imperial seal. I can't lie, the fit is fire. We may not like the Emperor, but he's got good taste. Leon catches her in the hallway as she's leaving and says she looks really cool. Like a crow? I guess because of the cape? I don't know about that one, little buddy, but whatever you say. Things are all set up for her trip. The Western nobles who will accompany her are already waiting, as is the Emperor. They're all pretty shocked when she arrives, but the Emperor is happy to see her wearing his gifts. Apparently, the style is modeled after the only female swordmaster on the continent, which is kinda cool, I have to admit. It's only fitting that he also provides her a sword and straps it himself so that no one will argue about her carrying a weapon. Trusting Asensio to keep an eye on things in her absence, Elisha steps in the carriage and they're off. Wait, I don't see Leon anywhere. Did she take him or no? Elsewhere, a group of knights we haven't met yet are facing down an endless horde of frog monsters and slowly losing stamina. One of them is just about to give in when the Marquis Belmer arrives and slays them all instantly. Nice hero moment, Belmer. But what's he doing in the middle of the woods? I guess he's been caught up in a quest for the Emperor and keeps getting sent to take care of monsters in this region. The drought seems to affect the number of monsters, so they've been getting stronger and causing a lot of issues. And time again, it's him who has had to solve them. It seems like he's about to lose his temper when he remembers the words of Empress Elisha, telling him to swallow his anger and not cause a scene. After their meeting is adjourned, he's out in the grounds when someone approaches him about having dinner with their daughter. Geez, this guy can't catch a break. Belmer, kill this frog. Belmer, marry my daughter. It must be exhausting to be a handsome knight in this empire. He hears talk from the other nobles about Elisha's journey west and wonders how she's doing. Little does he know, his ally is riding a horse at full speed through their party, with little Leon in her lap. I knew she wouldn't leave him behind. Leon is impressed with his mother's riding ability and seems super excited to be out on an adventure with her. And with any adventure, there are dangers. Elisha spots one in the bushes to their right and kicks her horse into a chase, covering Leon's eyes while she tells him it's nap time. Right, like any kid is going to fall asleep on top of a horse, let alone at that speed. A few giant monsters leap out of the bushes, so Elisha speeds ahead, conjuring a wall of water behind her. She even manages to leap to the top of a pile of logs, using her magic to keep them tied down until Rohan arrives. As usual, he makes quick work of them, and when his knights finally get to the scene, they find all the monsters already taken care of. Between him and the Empress literally looking down at them all on horseback, I think the term power couple is most appropriate here. Apparently, Leon was sleeping calmly through all of that, which I don't believe for a second. The danger has passed, but Elisha is still surprised at the number and unity of the monsters. It looks like the effects of the drought are being felt everywhere these days. Their next destination is the Duchy, where the Duke has received news of their latest attack and decided to send his second son, Jonathan, to meet the Empress and ensure her safe arrival at the castle. The Duke himself seems like quite the shady figure. He has 2 children he favors highly, and 2 he seems to hate. He asks them to keep an eye on the Empress while she's in their territory and make sure they don't miss a thing. Now that's sus if you ask me. The traveling party have made camp for the night, so Elisha and Rohan decide to get some sword practice in. Oh my god, it's perfect! A little duel is exactly the romantic tension we need to get a confession out of Rohan. Although Rohan is skilled, it's Elisha who comes out on top, and even tells him not to go easy on her in the future. So, no confession, but one heck of a hot moment right there. That evening by the campfire, Leon and Elisha are having a little heart-to-heart when suddenly Jonathan, son of the Duke, arrives at camp. He introduces himself and explains that he came to meet them because he heard about the attack. It seems he and Elisha have already met. And from her past life, she remembers that this guy will grow up to become the devil of the West. Whatever that means. I mean, he can't be good, can he, with a name like that? They get moving as a unit in the morning while Jonathan's elder brother Patrick and his sister Anne are making a plot to cement their own positions in the family with the arrival of the Empress. When she arrives, the Duke's daughter is all gracious and sweet. Little do they know, they're dealing with Miss Elisha, who doesn't take crap from anyone. She's also very good at sniffing out those who are untrustworthy. Maybe that's why she kicks up a fuss when they arrive. She claims to take offense that the Duke didn't come out and meet them himself, especially since the prince third in line to the throne is with them. Unimpressed by the elder siblings, Leon runs right over to the rejects, namely the younger daughter and her youngest brother. He tries to make friends with the kid, and even borrows some of his mother's magic to try and play with him. This is why Leon will always be my favorite character. He's just so pure. So guys, what do you think of this story so far? Please subscribe and turn on notifications for updates on this and all our other stories, so you can be the first to find out when they're out. Thank you so much for your support. See you in the next one!